Hello, and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by Mike Smith, award-winning director Brian Redondo, and Savon Jones, aka Captain Bonnie. This is episode 54, and we kill every man, woman, and child in pursuit of more John Cena brilliance. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
We're back. We're in your faces. We're in your ear holes. We're in your brains, ladies and gentlemen. Also, we've got Brian back from his lovely winter escape vacation.
I have returned, gentlemen. You can relax. I have returned.
He's ready to do the homework also, so it's all good.
As we're recording, I'm doing it right now. I'm actually watching all 3 Peacemaker episodes, all 4 right now. Yeah.
Yes.
4 different screens.
So, Brian, you don't mind if we tell people where you went, right?
Of course I mind. It's top secret, classified, man.
Okay, well,
Black
in this place,
Ops.
in this place where you were at, we know that you were in the future because you told us that last time in your in a very well done 8-minute kind of summary of your feelings. It was really, we were very impressed. You could, if you re-listen to our last episode, Brian, it was we really liked it, or 2 episodes ago.
I have not listened to any episodes that I'm not a part of.
But you are part of this.
You are. That's what we're literally saying.
Live.
Is you were a part of. Oh. Jesus.
I listened to my own 8-minute recording that I recorded by myself to make sure that it was awesome, and I was good. So
you were fantastic.
You're welcome.
If that was our show, Mike would even made the joke. He was like, we could just stop now. We don't even need to do the rest of the show.
Point made.
Yeah.
I've been trying to explain that to you guys for like a year and a half. Like, duh.
So that everybody, now we know our true form, which is just downsizing.
Nice. So it's Confidently Wrong with Brian Redondo and a bunch of other schmucks. I got it. So anyways, I was going to ask, how was it being in the future? Was there any good food there in the future? How was it?
I got to tell you, friends, that the future, 15 hours in the future,
specifically
amazing.
Guam. He was in Guam.
It's like it's unbelievable. There's sunlight. The sun rises, and it's beautiful.
Is that not true in New York right now?
People, actually, it's not true. It's very cold and gray right now in New York.
Right.
Guam, on the other hand, which is on the other side of the planet,
Other side.
Just think about that for a second, right? Like, rewind like 1,000 years ago. Could you imagine just transporting yourself to the opposite side of the planet and being like 15 hours ahead of the other side? Like that. That's
how would they know?
Exactly.
Right. You couldn't even fathom it. You couldn't fathom that.
Foreign concept.
Because okay. Stupid bit.
It is what it is. It was
Mike
cool.
is just grumpy. We made him wake up at 7:30.
I'm just gonna be so acerbic today.
So the great thing about Guam, though, is that it is exactly like Mike's virtual background right now. Palm trees, some calm waves, beachy seaside front. It's beautiful. Beautiful place. The food is good. Everything is barbecue over there. And oddly enough, like every island has like Jamaican barbecue for some reason and like Jamaican music. So like
Jamaican people?
There's no Jamaican people.
Okay.
No. It's just like shared island language, right?
Wasn't
everybody
Guam was a
plays
U.S.
island
territory,
music.
right?
Still
It
is.
is. It still is. It still is.
So is that where the food influence comes from? The barbecue?
No. I think it's so. There's the indigenous population, Chamorros, what it's called. They have their own style of barbecue. The next largest group.
The audacity of Mike to be like, barbecue is only American. Like, come on,
get
Mike.
out of here, man.
Barbecue is
Filipino
invented.
barbecue. It's
Oh my
great.
God.
And then there's Jamaican barbecue, which I don't even understand why that's on the island, but it's like one of the most popular things. And everybody plays like island music, which to me is just reggae, right? And this is true when you go to Hawaii. Nice. It's true when you go to the Caribbean. Like, I don't know what's going on with the island countries or civilizations, but they're all tapped into reggae. It's just what it is.
They're vibing. They feel it.
I'm an island boy.
Yeah, I think I heard that on the radio.
Really?
I'm in physical pain.
So Aboriginal,
it's nice
indigenous Australians, they do barbecue, like their own kind of barbecue. Like everybody grills with fire, man. Everybody.
Barbecue's just live fire.
Well, there's
cooking,
a difference
right?
between like grilling and when you say barbecue, there's a specific type of food.
No,
nah.
That's
well,
untrue.
Nah. It's
Have
a whole
you ever
genre.
Watched a food show? Yeah, it's a whole genre.
No, I don't watch
it's like
food
one of the
shows.
core tenets of
Don't you watch that
cooking
bacon
is
show?
barbecue.
Bacon show?
That bacon, British bacon. Don't you watch that show? That British bacon cooking show with the cakes and cookies and
Oh, that's a good show.
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
You watch shows about food.
He's just proving that your statement is wrong.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't care enough to debate this any further.
Because he's gonna lose.
Get 'em, boys.
Take that L and we can move on with our morning.
All right, so what is Guam like? You've painted a very clear picture for us. Is it like anything that we've been to or we know? Is it not that we've been to the Philippines? Is it like the Philippines? Is it more like the Caribbean, like Mexico?
So it's kind of like Hawaii light.
Okay.
One of my wife's friends who she grew up with on Guam likes to say that Guam is like Hawaii, just 10,000 times worse.
Jesus.
Okay.
And it's kind of accurate, right? Like Hawaii's been like overdeveloped, and it's also just the pinnacle of the island paradise dream. And then I think it's kind of like those Instagram memes where it's like Instagram versus real life. So Hawaii's Instagram, and Guam is real life. It's got kind of like that, a little bit of like that down home, a little rough, some places, a little gritty, but still an island paradise at the same time. So in a way, maybe closer to the Philippines than the U.S.
Cool. Well, what we wanted to talk about and what I'm really excited to talk about is HBO Max's new show, Peacemaker, starring John Cena. I wanted to say Cena, but that's wrong. John Cena. Also, I keep calling this show Peacekeeper. Like over and over, I've called this show Peacekeeper, and it's definitely not. It's Peacemaker.
It's too much Apex,
too
homie.
much Apex.
Too much Apex Legends, homie.
Whatever. So, if I call it Peacekeeper, just roll with it. So anyways, I think there's probably a lot of people out there who haven't checked it out yet. It might not have felt like up their bag, or just, shows on HBO Max tend to do just a little bit less, kind of numbers right at first. Mike, can you give us a 30-second premise of the show, right? Don't spoil anything for people. Like, let them get a taste of, whether they want to check this out.
There's nothing to spoil. It's a John Cena. Anyway, okay. The show picks up right after James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. So after James Gunn got canceled and Marvel kicked him out, and before they decided they care more about their money than their morals and brought him back, he went on to go do the Suicide Squad. So they rebooted that terrible first one. John Cena plays Peacemaker. In that movie, he's like his tagline is he values peace more than anything, and he'll kill however many men, women, or children he needs to get it. So he's just like a super fighter, assassin, army trooper, patriot guy. He dies at the end of the Suicide Squad, but then obviously doesn't die and is brought back and is essentially in the same boat in this show where he's just a government tool to extract their will in some Black Ops stuff. And then that's the premise of the story, and then it's John Cena, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that, but that is, 90% of the show is that it is John motherfucking Cena.
He's being just comedically large. That's like all of the show. So let's get into it a little bit. So this will have some spoilers into it, but since we're only 4 episodes in,
there is nothing to spoil. Who cares about the story in this show? It's John Cena.
So we're gonna go away from Mike. He needs a timeout. What do you think so far, Savon? How are you stacking up? You said you got to see 1 episode so far. What are you feeling?
It's it definitely has its own. It definitely has a fun tone and vibe. Clearly, they're trying to build off that same energy from the Suicide Squad movie. So very, very a lot of swearing, a lot of banter, a lot of back and forthing between characters, and the dialogue's real stream of conscious. But I'm digging it so far. The jokes had me entertained. I've always been kind of lukewarmish on John Cena, even as someone who used to watch wrestling, but I can't pretend the dude doesn't play the character extremely well.
Yeah.
He's racist, he's offensive, he's all these awful things, but like he plays it really, really funny. But I don't know, I like that they're leaning into the camp a bit.
Oh, yeah, you could say they're leading into the camp.
sorry. They belly flop into the camp and the cheesiness and embrace what it is, and I am here for it.
I feel like the biggest compliment of the show is that like you kind of forget it's John Cena. You know, it's like it's the character. Like it's not because, like I don't know what would an example
The Rock?
be. Yeah, I think sometimes like it's like, oh my God, you're The Rock. Like you're not like, this character. You are just this person you've created for 20 years. But like it's a character, and it's like it has its nuances and its high points and its low points. But it's not always. It's like I forget I'm watching John Cena because the character has performed so well.
Yeah, comedy really suits him well. And I mentioned this before, like in the Fast and Furious movies where he plays a serious role and has dramatic tension with Vin Diesel, that is god-awful, makes you want to blow your brains out. But John Cena being extremely
Trigger
comedic.
warning for all of you out there.
Trigger warning if you have a gun in next to your temple. Anyway, when John Cena is like tasked with doing comedy, he was great in Trainwreck with Amy Schumer. He's also great in Peacemaker. Like he is making this role and going ham for everything that Peacemaker is and could be. And it's really just, it's a showcase for him.
There is some earnestness to the character, no?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think that's why when you said
works.
he was racist and homophobic and whatever, I think he is, but he's also earnest in like trying not to be those things. And so I think it's not that you give him a pass for like saying, stupid things and, potentially harmful things, but it's also that he's not trying to do that. He's trying to get better, right? Not that he's not just trying to do that. He actually is like constantly trying not to be those things, specifically because his dad was that, right? And so he's on this curve of like maybe excuse it a little bit because he's like a baby in the social justice like arc of whatever his life. So we'll see if he can get there by the end. But he tries to make some changes over the course of time. He says different things.
We know a Peacemaker in real life. Many of us know a guy who maybe they weren't outright malicious or evil, but it's like, you clearly did not grow up in a very forward-thinking environment, and now you are a grown adult trying to navigate the world, and it is cringe.
It is. It's interesting they've gone so explicit with the racism and sexism in his dad's character, Like, I feel like they could have hinted at it, but I don't know, maybe they're making a point. It is kind of, and I noticed this because I watched the Suicide Squad this week. It's like, it very much feels like James Gunn. Like, I think especially the Suicide Squad is a lot of the same kind of notes as Guardians of the Galaxy, but like this has like nudity and graphic violence in it, and I'm like, this is just so weird. But again, DC doesn't have enough money or success to care about any kind of morals or family-friendly values, so it is kind of fun to see him and John Cena essentially just kind of let it go with all this chaos around them.
Well, you mentioned James Gunn getting canceled, and I wonder if there's plenty of James Gunn in the Peacemaker character himself, like, and trying to fumble through the cancel landscape.
I didn't think about that.
I think that makes sense. I saw on Twitter he answered some questions from people. People asked him like, "Oh, what does Peacemaker symbolize?" And I think he would maybe disagree a little bit, sort of, with you, Brian, because his response was like, the characters that I write in my movies aren't symbols. Like, I try to think of them, or I do think of them as like actual characters and people, and I'm only interested in writing like them as full human beings. And so he doesn't think of them as realistic and silly, but like realistic human beings rather than, like they have to stand in place for something. So I feel like he'd agree and disagree.
But you have to project yourself somewhat onto a fictional person you're creating, right? Like,
Yeah,
Or maybe
you
not. I don't know
empathize
what I'm
when
talking about.
when you write well, you empathize with the character. So, but I think that's a good point, Wes, is that John Cena or Peacemaker as a character, even though he is a caricature, he doesn't he still feels fully developed at the same time. Like there are more dimensions to him, even though he's a buffoon,
Big buffoon.
which I think makes the show much better than it should be.
We know people like that in real life. That's why it's entertaining to watch. Like, he doesn't talk in weird platitudes or awkward quotes. Like, he's a awkward, socially thrown off dude who does not know when to shut up or when to be tactful. And he's also a violent white guy, so he has to reconcile with that element of his identity. And it's entertaining because it's realistic. Like, as unrealistic as the character is, he still acts like a real person, which is such a weird thing to say, but, you know, it's not like one of those dramatic things where he's being brooding and dramatic. It's like, no, dude's awkward, and that feels authentic. But, again, that's props to John Cena, because we forget, right, we're saying comedy, but if you didn't watch wrestling back in the day, John Cena used to be a generic, clean-cut white guy wrestler, and then for a WWE Halloween special, he came out dressed as like a Vanilla Ice caricature, like kind of parody, and he got to be funny and do the rapping, and that's what led to him blowing up. Like, that's how he got to where he is.
I didn't know that.
I gotta see that.
John Cena started off basically doing as like a human. You know, he was boring at first. He was like just generic guy. As soon as he did the rapping and stuff, and that evolved into.
Is that when like
now.
the jean shorts came in?
I think they evolved it over time from like Vanilla Ice rapper to just hustle, hard work. But like, you get the idea. The whole hip hop thing, that was 100% a Vanilla Ice parody.
Oh,
so
I did not know that.
The dude had range from the beginning, because he went from just saying nothing, it's about as much charisma as a banana, to suddenly rapping against, doing rap battles on stage. So it's the dude's had much more talent than we've given him credit for.
His comedic timing is really good.
Yeah,
like,
he's the funniest one in the
body,
show. Yeah,
the way he says things, he's got it down. I am laughing. I don't know. I mean, for just the absurd like silliness of it, I think it's like a very adult but like very juvenile humor to me. Which I don't know. You guys know me a little bit. It's like the perfect like mix, the perfect tension between both of those ideas for me. I mean. Have you guys ever listened to Mitch Hedberg?
Yeah.
Very different. Made me listen to it.
very different style, but same idea. It's like he's being a juvenile, but like the jokes are like put together in a clever way, and I like that kind of stuff. And I feel like a lot of this show is put together that way. Like whether it's economists or judo master, right? All of these things are just like stupid gags, but like they feel like they're done in kind of a silly, smart, stupid way all at the same time. I've just been really enjoying that. I think I agree with Mike, though, that like the story hasn't really mattered yet. I mean, we're 4 episodes in, and it just started to matter a little bit at the end of episode 4.
I don't know. Like, does it need to matter, to be honest?
It sort of doesn't. I've just been enjoying the show. It's just been enjoying the ride.
I disagree. I think it needs something else to drive the show. I think it falls into the same trap as the Suicide Squad. It's just that it's one gag, one right after another, and you're just on this treadmill of potty mouth kind of juvenile humor gags over and over and over, that they start losing their effectiveness. Like I've like kind of like smiled while watching the show, but I haven't really laughed at anything, because it's like a lot of the jokes also to me feel kind of like low-hanging fruit. It's like, of course James Gunn's going to throw in this like stupid joke about Bernstein Bears or whatever, or like some like stupid Swedish metal band or whatever. Like all of it just feels like I've seen it before. I sat through 2 hours of the Suicide Squad. I'm sitting through another like 3 hours of Peacemaker. And so I'm kind of exhausted by the humor, and which makes me thirst for like some other dimension for the show, some other texture to really sink my teeth into.
Are you enjoying the butterfly thing then? Like how that progresses, and with Vigilante and his dad? Because there is, I guess there is story. I just don't care too much about it.
Yeah. So I've only watched through episode 3, and I'd say episode 3 is actually a good turning point where, this whole the butterfly mission, whatever he's on, comes into view. And it seems like, okay, now we kind of have a purpose for Peacemaker, and then also the inclusion of Vigilante, which I think is great, kind of foil for Peacemaker. Kind of like if you thought Peacemaker is bad, Vigilante is probably way worse if you think about it. Where as Peacemaker is trying to redeem himself in some ways. So I think that tension plus the overall kind of plot with the butterfly mission will hopefully pull the show forward for me.
Yeah.
And I've read like a few reviews, and reviewers have seen 7 out of 8 episodes, and they talk about about what we're going to get into later, kind of with Peacemaker's backstory, more about his dad and his dad being a white supremacist leader or whatever he is. I think that also comes more into play later in the season. So I'm looking forward to that.
So I think that brings us to our next question then, which is, are you invested in the characters? Are you invested all of them, none of them, some of them, and getting to see, like, you're interested to see where they're going? Mike, where are you at?
It's hard for me not to compare this show to Harley Quinn, just because it's DC. It's obviously the same characters, but it's like the same exact tone, I mean, like the super violence with like the underpinning of comedy. I find myself I'm invested in the superhero or supervillain characters. I really like Vigilante. I really like Judo Man. I thought that was a hilarious character. But like the whole other squad, I really don't find myself caring at all. Like Harcourt only exists as a manifestation of. Maybe each of those characters is like going to be essentially a manifestation of him overcoming his dad's racism and him overcoming his dad's sexism. But I don't know. I just don't really find myself caring about them. Like Harcourt is super boring. I guess we got a plot twist at the end of episode 4. I won't ruin that for y'all with one of them. I don't care about the nerdy guy. I don't remember her name, but from Orange is the New Black, she's way less funny in this than she was in Orange is the New. Yeah, she's way funnier in Orange is the New Black. Sister.
Right?
Yeah.
We all know that name.
But yeah, I don't care about them at all, so I'm excited to see. I think the show will do well with like other characters they bring in, which kind of seems to be the way with DC stuff. But they're not funny either. Like, the bits with them are the worst bits in the show. Like, John Cena is carrying the show on his back. So, yeah, to answer your question, most of them are meh. But I guess we'll see.
Can I go?
It's your show, bud. You do whatever you want.
I'm a hard disagree. I think each one of them has, like, their own thing going on, and it's different, and they're all struggling with different types of insecurities. They're each got their own little quirks and their humor, but they all bring a different package to the table. I do a little bit agree with Harcourt, but I think more will come with her later. She definitely seems like she's internally sort of repressing something.
But we've seen that so many times. Like,
I mean, there are no new
she's
stories.
Gonna go to the bar and beat somebody up, and then she's gonna keep pushing him away, and eventually, but in small moments, we're gonna see her smile at him, and then it's gonna be some big thing. And it's like, come on.
I don't think they're gonna
man.
get together.
Like,
you think they're gonna get together?
I don't think so.
It's certainly like hint. Yeah, exactly. Like when he would like the sniper rifle scene. Like clearly, she was about that life. And I'm like, oh God, why?
They already showed her in her underwear too. It's like, okay,
yeah,
that's what she's here for.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like not only is she a man, I feel like just serves to be a plot point for Peacemaker overcoming his sexism, but then she's also, there to be in her underwear. So I'm like, add it to like maybe can she be gay or something like that? Like that would add like a
John Cena was in his underwear. Nobody was complaining.
Yeah, but that's for comedy. It was such a good bit. The tidy whities, dude. It's so funny.
That looked like some fan service.
It's for the female gays.
That was too much.
Yeah, or for the whoever gays. Some people might just like John Cena.
Fair enough.
My son was hammocked out. There's an audience for that.
Speaking of banana character,
I mean, they're all just like flawed characters. I think I'm not invested in the dad other than how he and Peacemaker's story sort of progresses over time. I think he's going to be clearly like the driving force for like what Peacemaker is able to actually grow through the show, right? Is he able to set his dad apart from being his dad, right? He's starting to realize as the show goes on, like, yeah, my dad's been terrible and hard on me and whatever, and I don't necessarily like being around him because he like talks down to me, but that's a far cry from actually I need to cut my dad off, right? And there's this tension of, yeah, but he's my dad, yeah, but like I know that like this is a familial connection, and so like every comic book movie these days, right, it's about chosen family. And so is your relationship with your dad, at what point is it too much for you, and how do you grow out of his shadow and become your own person? And I think he's still trying to do that, right? Even if he's 40 years old or 35 years old or whatever he's supposed to be, he's really having the like 17-year-old, 18-year-old, growth and development here that he probably should have had a long time ago. And so that's why I think it kind of feels off for some of you guys, or what you're saying is he's kind of annoying and like he should have just done this, but it's like he's just doing this way later than everybody else sort of had to go through it. And like, I do want to see where Adebayo goes. I know she's not the most comedic, but I think she's the one who's been able to show sort of like this actual like consistency of her believability of what she is, and she's got some things going on. Obviously, she's related to Waller in some way, or in a very clear way in the first episode. But also she isn't very clearly related, like in the same way. It's like, in what way is she her daughter, in which way is she actually not her daughter in some ways, right? So I'm interested. I don't know. I want to see where these characters go. Myrn I don't care about, but we'll see. Savon?
Yeah. The one thing I want to add, and this is something that was why I was, because y'all, if I don't remember, when we talked about this, I expressed I was super cold, lukewarm about this show. I didn't care. I don't think everybody need their own show. I was iffy about John Cena. And as someone who did not care about Peacemaker even in the actual movie, like, they're doing a good job of fleshing out just his character. Mm-hmm. And, we can say what we want about the plot and all that, but it's harder to connect to the plot if you don't connect to the character. And so, like I said, I'm earlier on in the show, so I could be wrong about some of this, but it feels nice that there are multiple scenes, even in just episode 1, where it's like, oh, you can really see this man internally reflecting on his actions and thinking about how he, what he looks like in a space. He's still an idiot, but I think that's good writing. There's lots of shows that Boba Fett don't do a good job of developing their characters or making them interesting to watch and watch them grow. So, like that is not something you get to appreciate often in shows, in my opinion. So you got to give props what props is due. And and I'm also curious about the Adebayo character, because I really enjoy this parallel of, to what extent are we the legacy of our parents? Is to what extent is Peacemaker tied to the legacy of his father? To what extent is Adebayo tied to Waller and what their relationship is? It's an interesting dynamic, and I'm excited to see what that looks like as we see Adebayo and Peacemaker interact more, because they're two sides of they're both far ends of the spectrum, but still.
But not that far, right? I mean, both of their parents are violent,
sides, but not.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. I'm excited for that. The show's done a bunch of little things that has piqued my interest.
Yeah. For me, the best scene so far has been that moment where Peacemaker is making fun of the dude with the beard, the tech guy, and then cut to him flopping on his bed, beating himself up for pushing that guy away, for making fun of that guy and basically pushing him away and severing like a potential friendship. To me, that one scene is like the redeeming quality of the show, is that like we're kind of like, to Savant's point, that we're gonna get somewhere with Peacemaker, and that he's has this internal struggle going on. However, I will say though, aside from that, besides that like sun peeking through the clouds moment, it is kind of, for me at least, it's hard to root for Peacemaker. As funny and as entertaining as John Cena is, like, I still don't really give a shit about what happens to him. Like, you know, when he's like trying to run out of that apartment, or when he's in the fight with the woman that he just hooked up with, like, I didn't really care. Like I wouldn't care if he got stabbed in the head. It's just like I don't know. I'm not yet fully invested in the character, but I am very curious as to where it's gonna go.
I think by episode 3 and 4, I did start to care if he was gonna like take some damage. In the first episode, not at all. It was just funny, like he could get stabbed a billion times, and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, he'll come back. It's fine." But I think now it'd be like, "Oh, well, like he missed out on his opportunity to grow, and he was actually trying to do that." I think you guys will get here in episode 4. There's this conversation between Peacemaker and Vigilante in the car, and both of them are trying to work out and express their feelings as men, and they're struggling with it because they've never really had to do it before, and they've never had to do it with a friend before. And so like there's all this like stuff going on that is like real life that like, you know, if me and Mike tried to sit down and have a conversation and be like,
Jesus
what's
Christ.
I don't wanna
difficult,
see it.
right?
Yeah, no.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
like
Pay top dollar.
Skip intro on that.
Okay. course
but
not.
that's but is like I don't know. I mean, I think that was like not brave, but it was like interesting for Gunn to make that decision to say like, hey, we're gonna have this conversation and we're gonna watch these guys fumble through it in like somewhat of a funny way, but also just kind of in an awkward way because like they don't know how, right? And so that I think that's what this show is really about, like you said, about like learning how to actually build relationships that aren't just based on like violence. You know, it's cool.
So
I don't know, it's fun. But
there's,
there's gonna be violence too.
All right,
conundrum.
go ahead.
Go ahead,
Savon.
go ahead.
I don't care enough to.
I have a question. This is a question for everybody. Maybe this is for the audience too. But I think the issue with Peacemaker as a character is that whenever, and maybe this is a minority thing, maybe it's not, but whenever I see a character in any media who's even remotely racist, I just immediately disengage and root for them until the cows come home. It's like, this we at with it? Bet. And I'm just, at that point, I'm just cheering for every bad thing that happened to them.
You said root for them, and I was like, what?
Root
is
against them, yeah.
Yeah, root against them. So like,
okay.
yeah, like Peacemaker's like to Brian's point, Peacemaker's funny, he's entertaining, he's hysterical in all his moments, but he's also like just racist and got this racist ass dad. So I just like, it's so hard for me to garner sympathy because I'm just like, yo, look at the company you keep. I like you in the room with this man. I wouldn't even be in the room with homie. So now, and I get that that's your dad thing, but that's.
So Wesley Savon is saying you're not a good enough minority.
Got it.
No, that's not.
Yeah, man.
My POC card got revoked.
What?
We
I
want to
did
see
not
the
say that.
payback.
Your
I did not say
POC card,
that.
your
I'm just
AAPI card.
saying. No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know, when I see a racist character, that just makes it really hard for me to connect with them, even if they're super well written. But I don't know if that's just me being a hater or.
It's like you're supposed to root for him in overcoming his racism. Like,
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't give a diggity damn.
It makes me hate this show even more.
And I'm just, like, I feel like that's what it's kind of like Michael Scott in The Office. It's like I don't feel bad for him. I feel bad for the people who have to be around this nonsense. So the character gonna be entertaining, but ultimately I never rooted for Michael either because I'm just like, yo, this man is so out of pocket. Like,
He's
where do we
terrible.
even start? Oh, that's how
So
I feel. He's
there's,
like Michael Scott.
just racist and violent Michael Scott. There's this influence. I don't like a lot of like Instagram influencers. I really don't like any, but there's one I like. Her name is Tinks. And she has this bit where she like reviews shows, but she reviews them on the phone scale. So like 1 on the phone scale is I was on my phone the whole time, and like 10 on the phone scale is I was so gripped by the show that like I couldn't even fathom looking at my phone. Peacemaker's like a 2 or 3 on the phone scale. Like you could be on your phone and not really miss anything. And like maybe we need to look at shows that are on the phone scale there a little bit differently. And like it's just kind of there to vibe. Like I don't really care about your plot development too much.
Nah, I think there's some plot here. And I think, Savon, your point is right that, like, should we be more critical of the show that is trying to excuse away his racism? And also, is there no place for shows that show the, like, that people are actually trying to better themselves in some way and, you know, whatever. Anyways, anything else you guys want to add?
I mean, it
Brian.
kind of reminds me of the Colbert Report, right? And like, and how conservatives out of their mind thought he was like
Real deal.
O'Reilly factor or whatever.
Yeah.
And that he wasn't actually just skewering them. So like, are the white racist violent people like the Oath Keepers going to watch
sure.
Peacemaker and be
I'm
like,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
I'm
is
sure.
life. That's what we
I'm
got to
sure.
do. I need a bald eagle as my sidekick. Like,
Punisher all over again.
Yeah,
Punisher,
exactly.
Joker.
they just like miss the point. Yeah.
Yeah,
The Tyler Durden.
yeah, Tommy Shelby.
I think
Oh my
because
God,
he's in
we
a
have
bright,
so many of these.
I
They're
know.
everywhere.
I
Walter
think because
White.
he's in a bright red and blue and
Rick
shiny helmet
Sanchez.
thing. I don't think he's going to become that kind of symbol, but yeah, I do think there's some kind of element of that we have to question.
Well, and they've
Um,
like never.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like they've been like even more topical, like with the deep state stuff, and I don't even know if they specifically mentioned QAnon, but they've talked about not just general white supremacy, but white supremacy in the past couple years, which I know that's where you get into these situations, right? If you're too topical, like it's there's three people. There's people that understand it's the joke and it's like a nuanced joke that's like relevant to now. There's people that like are don't really realize how specifically relevant that is now, and then there's the other end of the spectrum where they're like, yeah, it is the deep state.
Oh god.
Finally, someone gets it.
Yeah.
I hate it here. All right, let's wrap up this show. So,
I don't agree with him killing people, but you know, if you really listen to him, he has some good things to say.
oh my god.
It's just like Joe Rogan for murderers.
I mean, there's really someone out there saying that stuff, Mike. All right.
No, I know.
Yeah,
Not
for
just
sure.
someone.
I know.
Someone's.
Painfully well.
All right, well, let's wrap this up. So, who should watch this show? Who should not? Savon, who should watch this show? Who should not?
If you can get down with just like really silly, kind of vulgar, slapstick, heavy humor, and it's not a heavy watch, this is good. If you just don't like violence, gore, and just like wieners and breastises and such, this isn't for you. It's a little juvenile in that regard.
Brian.
If you were into Harley Quinn, but want some real blood or physical blood, not real blood,
Not drawn, animated, illustrated.
you should check it out. Other than that, I don't really know. I'm not sure I'm gonna keep watching. Maybe.
All right. Is there anyone that shouldn't watch the show?
Alan.
Yeah, people who are queasy and don't like dick jokes.
Fair. Mike?
I feel like I have a spectrum, like how Tinks has the phone scale. I don't even know how to it just so happened to work out that it's the three Asian men in my life, but like would Wesley like it, would Alan like it, or would Brian like it?
Very different, all three
There's
of us.
just
though.
us,
I think,
man.
like,
You need more.
I know. For
Asian
real.
Pretty
scale.
good sample
I
size.
know.
though, in terms of,
well,
like,
yeah,
nationality.
yeah. Like Wesley is all the
Ethnicity.
way on like the smooth brain side of it. Alan's all the way on the wrinkly side of it, and Brian's just like yo-yoing in between. So Wesley likes this. I think Brian's closer to Alan on this side. Yeah, I don't know. If you just, it's a phone show. Just put it on, vibe out. It's funny. It's just a sitcom with a lot of violence.
I agree. It's probably a cop out because I mean this is made by James Gunn. But if you like the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I think for its irreverent humor and just kind of like silly things, I think you'd like this.
No,
I
that's
actually
such
don't
a
think
poor
so.
comparison. That movie has
I don't
such
think so.
heart, and there's such a great story and plot development, and this is just kind of like hollow.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's no
if you
potty
like,
humor
okay,
in
how about this?
Guardians.
If you like the joke where Peter Quill is getting his mugshot taken and then breaks out the Jack in the Box middle finger, you'll like this show. And then if you like the Harley Quinn animated show, I know Mike referenced this earlier. You'll probably like this show. It's very like similar in terms of it's just like graphic. They talk a lot about like social justice things, and they are sort of smart about how they talk about things like that. I think again you'll like the show. And then you guys talked about what would turn you off about it. I think for sure those are the same things I would say. Yeah, I don't know.
I really don't have any other Asian friends.
No, none.
You got three at least.
I'm trying to think of all my
I'm
Jewish
thinking.
friends right now. I think I
You
have.
live in New York. You better have mad Jewish friends. You out of your mind?
You can enclave in New York though. There's so many people.
Damn, bro, that's crazy. I'm gonna be forgetting someone, and I hope they don't listen to this.
Where your other black friends at, Mike?
Where my white friends at? You know,
I said the exact opposite of that.
where my black friends?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't hang around you. You don't hang around with too many other melanin folk outside me. What's going on? You know what? I'm gonna leave you alone.
And
That's
video
true for
games, I do,
everybody.
over the internet, and
I'm gonna leave
nowadays
you alone.
those friendships are.
I like to keep my number of white friends under
You have to
in the
have a
single
quota
digits.
of white friends.
Yeah, I like to keep it. If I can count them all on one hand, I'm good.
I want my family to know I'm multicultural, but not too multicultural.
Not too much.
All right. Well,
Okay,
now we know which podcast episode gets us canceled, so it'll be amazing.
Thanks. Okay, I was waiting.
All of our sponsorships just evaporated right there, guys. All right, hit us up on socials at confidently_pod. That's on Twitter and Instagram. We're more active on Instagram. Savon said he's going to start jumping in there, posting some memes and stuff, maybe some show announcements. So we're glad. Obviously, you guys could tell I like the Peacemaker show, so I think you should check it out. But Mike does not. Brian is like pretty meh on it.
If you're like me, you should watch it.
Yeah, but you didn't even like it.
Yeah, I do lots of stuff I don't like.
Yeah,
There's too many other good things.
Michael
I don't like
watch a
this show.
Wow.
I'm not hate watching it.
Larry
I'm just
David
like
of you.
I'm pretty bored generally. You know what I mean? So anything to fill the void.
Fair enough. All right. Well, we're out of here. Visit all of our sponsors. We'll get a sponsor one day, guys, and then people will be like, "What? You actually have a sponsor?" It'll happen. I'm gonna manifest it. We're just gonna have a real sponsor one day.
Your sister's going to sponsor us.
Shoot,
Tell her
that
to
girl
send
makes
us
lots of money, man.
Venmo
All
me
right.
$5.
Hell yeah. Send us your Venmos. Bye.
Peace.
Tell your friends.
Maker. Keeper?
Peacemaker.
How's fun?
Incredible!